Hello, everyone. Today I'm here with David from FAIRLY.AI. The reason for this is that there's been a lot of conversation recently around diversity, inclusion, and equality in all elements of our lives. The technology space and the development of AI and facial recognition causes us to question how we implement these technologies like facial recognition in an unbiased and equitable way. We've recently heard about how IBM has shut down further development, other development of facial recognition technology, which naturally causes us some questions. And that's why we have David here to shed some light on the situation. So David, we have a lot to look forward to with the development of artificial intelligence and machine learning. There are still many concerns around the fairness by which these programs operate. Can you explain what exactly that means?
These operations are entirely based upon the past behavior of humans in data sets that these algorithms learn from, as well as decisions made by the product developers, data scientists who are developing the technology. And the fact is, there is bias in the actions of human beings that get recorded in these data sets and then learned by these algorithms. You can think of these algorithms as being very much like a very young child that might not get the full context, but will mimic and do what it sees and reproduce what it sees from the adults around. These algorithms look at large sets of data. We'll see that some decisions have been made that might not be most respectful to people in minority groups, that might not represent the interests of everyone equally. And they are very good at doing the exact same kind of thing that they see done in the data. They look at statistical regularities and then reproduce them. So when you have a machine learning model that is then put out into public domain or public use, and it's given new information, a new case to deal with that it's never seen before, it will do what it's seen done in the past. And there are issues where the data itself is framed in a way that doesn't include everyone. And so the algorithms are not able to properly learn how to behave in these situations. So for example, you would take image recognition data set that has a lot of pictures of people smiling, frowning, and then have an algorithm that's meant to say whether they're happy or sad. If you only ever present these algorithms with pictures of white males, and then you present the algorithm with a problem when you release it of identifying a minority female, they may not have enough training data to have learned how to distinguish between a smile and a frown with, say, a darker complexion or a different facial configuration than it's used to. They have very narrow learning, and as a result of that, can just make ridiculous decisions, and that causes issues of fairness in terms of the technology not performing as well for everyone. And in some cases where we're looking at, say, medical applications or applications in policing, security, where they're high stakes, where they have deep impact in people's lives, malfunctioning technology for minority groups is a massive issue of fairness. Additionally, decisions that have been made for things like college admissions or border crossing, where the biases against certain groups were really present in the decisions made in the past, and where the machine learning algorithms learn from those past decisions, we find a very clear way in which unfairness is baked into the system directly from the data.
So, I mean, we've seen full stops being placed on current and developing facial recognition programs, as we mentioned, but how does FAIRLY.AI intend to rectify these biases?
So there's a number of approaches that we've seen in the academic research literature, in approaches to international standards for governance that we're building into our system, where we take machine learning development life cycle at a company, say, where you have data that's being gathered,
Mhm.
algorithms that are being tested, change the configuration of the algorithm, change some variables in it, and you get very different results. And this process happens iteratively and over often many months or even years of development. We're recording the activities that are conducted for designing the
Mhm.
algorithm, who is involved, who is signed off on it, where the expertise comes from. We're recording information about the purpose of a data set that is constructed that might be used in a different environment than it was originally intended. And then we're recording the actual results of tests performed on these algorithms
Okay.
using uh, diverse data sets. So we are looking at the metadata as well as testing with diverse data sets to see example, maybe there's only 12% female representation in your data set. Very often a company doesn't even look or doesn't make that a priority. But by going through our system, that becomes very much the priority to have at the end of the process a high level overview
Right.
of how your algorithms are impacting people from various groups, where the unfairness is in terms of known metrics, and then developing a system for getting there.
Is it possible for these programs to be unbiased, or are humans going to still need to be relied on to make unbiased decisions, or at least be conscious of those biases?
It's aspirational in a way that I think I studied philosophy back in grad school, and I don't think I ever learned exactly the proper definition of fairness that no one will ever argue with.
Well said.
It is
Mhm.
always something that we strive towards and
Mhm.
strive to make better. And there are different views, and it's very contextual. But there are some very fundamental ways that we can view fairness in terms of information used for making decisions, as well as clear violations of fairness. So we have human rights with legally recognized protected categories that cannot be discriminated against in contexts like insurance rates, college admissions, and so on. We can measure whether, as a group, people from one group are treated differently from people from another in terms of the outcomes of the algorithms. We
Mhm.
can measure the error rates that people are experiencing if they are of one protected class, and then we can test what happens if we change the protected class. This is adversarial debiasing is a technique used, but basically what it is what if you were white, or what if you had a different sexual identity? How would the system then treat you? And by seeing that there is a massive difference in how you're treated based upon these protected categories, we have a very clear sense of issues with fairness that need to definitively be addressed by the company.
So, in the end, what can we look for from Fairly AI in the near future? What are your next steps, and what can we hope for?
We are partnering with a number of organizations, and some of our development is specific to those organizations' needs.
Mhm.
But overall, there is a process that we've put together,
Mhm.
and we're developing that as a SaaS product to be released to the general public. And so this is a product that can completely cover your needs for developing a algorithmic impact assessment, everything that you need to put together in order to have a single report that you can use for internal reporting as
Mhm.
well as external standards. So this is the system that we're putting out in the coming months.
Thank you so much for your time. This has actually been very insightful, and I hope that all the people watching get a little bit something from this.